That's one of the new guys. I don't know his name.
Go ahead and call the meeting to order. We do need to move to item 2.0, adoption of the agenda, and we do have an addendum.
Make a motion for the agenda as amended.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda with the addendum. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Their mics on, Mr. President.
What's that?
Doesn't seem like their mics are on.
Okay.
Can't.
Mine's on.
Well, we'll go ahead and proceed.
Okay, it's red.
3.0, approval of minutes from the July 18th and the July 25th special meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved to approve and seconded those two separate meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 4.0, consider bills and warrants. Any questions today?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to pay those bills and warrants. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 5.0, hearing of requests and suggestions of citizens and organizations. Is there anyone in the crowd that wants to address the board? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move on to 6.0, report of the superintendent of schools.
All right, so today was an exciting day and that it was the first day back for staff. And so we started early this morning at about 7:30 with biscuits and gravy, and we had some board members that were able to come and join us and serve, which was a lot of fun. We had a good time. We went over expectations for the year and talked about telling each other something good and celebrating all of the things that we had accomplished in 21 and 22. So, and then they were dismissed. We had some time in the cafeteria. Commercial Bank graciously provided Chicken Annie's lunches for everyone, which is always nice. And we had someone from the Heartland Piano Group that came and played and sang and took requests, and so we did that at lunchtime today, which was nice. This afternoon, in a couple of the buildings, they had work times. You know, there's 2.5 hours of required trainings every year that teachers and staff have to watch, so they had some time for that. Other buildings had meetings. So the next couple days, they've got meetings, and then there's always one full day of work time in a classroom. So on Wednesday, all of the aides and the paras elementary-wise are going to have some letters training, and that's that literacy instruction that our K-5 teachers are doing. There's a kind of like a crash course, a 6-hour crash course for paras and aides and how to best support that. So they're going to come on Wednesday for that training, which is exciting. And now on Wednesday, also we've got sneak peek. So the elementary schools will be open from 5 until 7, so people can stop by, meet their teachers. And then on August the 18th, that's the first day of school for kindergarten through 5th grade, for our 6th graders, for our 9th graders, and then any new students to the district. So that's on the 18th. And then that evening, we've got open house at the middle school and the high school from 5:30 until 7:30. Now, on that Thursday, where we don't have everyone, we dismiss that day at 1 o'clock. So it's an early dismissal, and so the buses will run just as they would later, just 2 hours earlier. So we've got that. And then on the 19th, it's full on. Everyone is back in school for the whole day. So we're excited. It's arrived very quickly. The other thing is the ESSER 3 update. We were on the state board agenda for approval last week. There were 3 of those items. So the majority of the plan was approved. There were 3 of those items that were deemed to be not eligible. And so we're going to use capital outlay funds in order to pay for those types of things. And one of them had been approved, had been eligible, and then different groups, when they look through those, determine that they aren't. So we will use quite a bit of those capital outlay funds, but we'll be working on tightening the belt and saving to build that fund back up. So we're still waiting on the HVAC controls, and I'm waiting on a letter from the Historical Society. Anytime you do a capital project, you have to have something from the city that says it doesn't have any impact on the environment, and then from the Historical Society. So we're still waiting on that, and it should be a go.
Can you let us know what those specific, not necessarily right now, but let us know what those specific items that didn't get approved that's being pulled out of the capital outlay?
That I sure can. It's the environmental sensors, the intercoms, and the intercoms. So we did that with sound amplification, and they kept telling me no. I had hoped that we could use some safe schools funding for that as well. And so some of that funding came out and that window was very short, but this time it was only for secured entrances. But they're talking about how, and we already have secured entrances, so it wasn't anything that we could use. However, they're talking that more money may be available, and we will apply, for that as a reimbursement if we can. So those were the items.
Everything under the 20% learning loss was approved?
Everything that we have submitted up to this point under the 20% for learning loss was approved. We haven't met that cap yet. We're very close. There's one item that we're waiting on. Dean from KSDE is supposed to be in contact with me. He's been very busy in regard to using it for some support staff salaries. So I think we coded it for mental health supports under one of those line items, and it needed to be coded as something else, but he wanted to visit about that, so. But the intention is to go in and to rewrite until all that money has been allocated. At $4.6 million, we don't want to leave anything on the table. Right now, there's still some out there, but we've got time. So.
Any further questions? All right, thank you very much. Moving to 7.0, report on the August Tri-County Board meeting. Mr. Castle?
Again, for Joanne, it was very short, about 50 minutes, and most of that was taken up with the educational process of funding for the co-op. I do that every year in either July or August, and we probably spent 35 or 40 minutes on that. Everything else was pretty quick. Approved destruction of old records, which everything, date of birth from 1996 could be destroyed. Then we approved the 6B application, approved the co-op budget, and approved the application for the TIP grant. That was it.
Any questions? Mr. Castle? Okay, thank you. So 8.0, the individual plans of study with Mr. Swanson and Mr. Gordon.
Welcome.
Okay, just to kind of kick this off a little bit, individual plan of study came out with the Kansas CAN initiative from the state. I want to talk just a little bit about where that kind of came from. In 2015, Dr. Watson and Brad Newenschwander, the deputy commissioner, went around to the state. They had 20-some stops all over the state and talked to business leaders, school people, community people, and said, what do you want a Kansas graduate to look like? What skills do you want them to have? And this was kind of of what they said. And if you notice up there, reading and writing and arithmetic are not up there as high as you would think. There were other skills that the community said, our kids need these skills. From that information and that visit, the Kansas CAN came out, and when you kind of look at what they focused on a successful high school graduate, it's kind of going back to teaching that whole child. So when we talk about social emotional learning and individual plan of study and kindergarten readiness, some of the initiatives with Kansas CAN, it was really kind of the focus on teaching the whole child, and individual plan of study was being a focus on that. We don't want to throw everything on our teachers and staff at once, so this is something we've kind of built upon over continuous years. We made some great strides on it this year, and I know these gentlemen are going to talk about that and plans for continuing to build that. So turn it over to you guys.
All right, so we started with what's the I in IPS? It's individualized. And so individualized plans of study. Each one of our students are going to compound starting in 6th grade all the way to 12th grade. It would be a 6-12 program where we start off with career clusters and interest surveys. It's kind of funny, a lot of our middle school boys, they all want to be NFL players. It's always in the top 3. And so kind of getting that to where by the time they're seniors, they have 3 options after school to go right into and real goals. The next one is IPS partners. A lot of this, I know last year, this was a part of our site councils, themes and topics whenever we discuss those, making sure that our parents, our community, we're aware of what's going on. We have to partner with the teachers, and we have to make sure that they have time to train, that they have access to the curriculum maps, and that those Viking times, those 30-minute Viking times are essential in getting our IPS programs covered in that 6-12 kind of time. We'll kind of keep going. The individual plan of study, the goal is basically a digital portfolio for the students to kind of build on. At the beginning, we talked about, IPS, it's individualized, it compounds on itself. And so our students will start with a digital portfolio in 6th grade, and it will continue to evolve and change as the students mature and as the students start picking out what their goals are all the way through 12th grade. And this is meant to be, the digital portfolio is meant to be their roadmap to success. Action steps, we kind of started with this last year, was integrating individual plans of study into those biking times. The next piece that we need to do is, and it's exciting this year because even at the beginning of last year, we were still wearing masks. We were still spacing out inside of our classrooms. We had multiple lunch shifts. We weren't ready to start going out into the community, but this year that is a driving force. We want community partnerships, whether it's mock interviews, whether it's job shadowing, and actually getting the community involved in the young people that we're raising to enter the workforce. And then finally, that third piece, the action step, is a digital portfolio, is kind of the focus of this, something that has evidence from whenever they're 6th graders, from 11 years old to 18 years old. Implementation steps, the next slide is, we started off in the spring of last school year with student-led conferences. The high school did their digital portfolio on slides, and so at the middle school, we wanted to make it kind of a one-pager, a nice cheat sheet. And so we had everything from their academic scores on there to their career clusters of interest, their attendance, and their grade point average, just to name a few things to kind of get started with that. The next piece of that implementation steps includes interest surveys. And so Zello is a platform that we use from middle school to the high school, and it breaks it down into, like, my 7th graders actually have the ability to see what applications look like at tech schools, at traditional four-year educations, and so where they want to go, the standard of living there, or the cost of living there, how much they'll have to make to get through school. And so it really breaks it down into details so that they have a solid plan kind of moving forward. And so we implemented Zello last school year. Moving forward, something that we need to continue to focus on is expanding our CTE pathways. And so at the middle school, we have 3 teachers that offer those pathways. It was Trevor Meserale, now it's Joe Kampmeyer. He's taken over Intro to Technology. FACS is Family and Consumer Sciences, that's Ashley DeVore now. And then Joe Moore inside of the Computer Applications class. So all 3 of those are pathways that we offer at the middle school, and that's one thing that makes us special compared to other middle schools around the area, is that we can offer that as early as 6th grade and get those students inside of those classes. And then back to the last kind of bullet points, all focus on community engagement, is getting our young people out to see what the workforce looks like and kind of what their options are post-secondary success. And that's a part of our goals, is to increase college and career readiness by 5% over the next 3 school years. At the middle school specifically, and then I'll turn it over to Eric. Last school year, some of the things that we kind of started with, a large piece, if we went back all the way to the second slide, Jeff made the point, it's not math, it's not ELA, it's not the traditional academia. A lot of it focuses on self-efficacy. And so the ability for a young person to take action steps toward actually accomplishing the goals that they set for themselves. And so we started off last year with a little piece called Week at a Glance. Every Monday, we try to get the kids organized where they set a goal for the entire week, where they monitored their grades and they took accountability and responsibility for what they're doing inside of the classes and the results that they were getting. So we started off with Week at a Glance. We had used Zello before. My counselor, Diana Quaren, she had used it in classes before, but we wanted to make this a tier 1 intervention where every student had access to this, and we were touching it not just whenever Diana came in and did a lesson on career pathways, once a month or once a semester with each grade level. Instead, we pushed it out where now it's in Viking time, so every kid was getting Zello 3 times a month to go back and start working on their digital portfolio. The next piece was life skills. That kind of goes back to that self-efficacy. At the middle school, we're getting them ready. They're young adults, and so we did how to change a tire, how to sweep the floor, how to charge your battery. I remember Mary Freeze did how to make a grilled cheese on a hot plate, as if, if you're in a dorm room and you've got to feed yourself. And so, and then we went so life skills was an array of different things to make them feel more empowered and more independent. And then finally, student-led conferences was related to responsibility. And so them taking responsibility for the results that they're getting inside of their classes, whether it's their FastBridge scores or their daily attendance, and then sharing that with their parents so that they have an idea of my young person is interested in kind of these 3 different career paths. Looking forward to this upcoming school year, we need to make sure that we maintain and continue to grow those digital portfolios. One thing from the Panorama surveys last school year, our lowest result in the student surveys was student efficacy. So only 40% of our students felt like they were effective in reaching their goals, and that was our lowest kind of result. And so that's something that we've got to approach, especially if they're going to be successful after high school. And so kind of like second step is our curriculum for our social emotional standards. One thing that we purchased this school year in-house was The Leader in Me. It's all based on the 7 habits of highly effective people. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that, New York Times bestseller. And so we're going to start teaching them that, self-discipline and routine becomes habit, and then you get into a flow state of mind, and then you can start kind of compounding on top of those successes. And then finally, one thing that we're excited about is the opportunity to go out there and get engaged with the community. We had the Rotary Club reached out to us. They're wanting to get back inside of the middle school and host some of their meetings there. They've sponsored our attendance awards that, for our cadence of accountability on Friday student assemblies. We're going to be able to hand out rewards to the students directly to them. And so we're looking for opportunities to get our kids, even if they're 7th and 8th grade, get them out inside of the community so that they can start visualizing what a successful individual looks like after high school graduation.
Okay, at the high school level, just a slide, where were we before last year? Our students did 4-year plans, but they were in Infinite Campus. They weren't shared out with the parents. They were just a 4-year plan that the kid had. We had Viking times. We didn't use them for IPS. They were basically homeroom, study hall type deals. And then finally, the traditional parent-teacher conferences. We just did them the traditional way, and that was 2 years ago, kind of before we got started with this. What changed for 21-22? We restructured Viking time. So now, when you have a Viking time teacher as a freshman, that teacher will go with you as a sophomore, then as a junior, and then as seniors, they'll slip into the new career and the college and career orientation class or the college and career exploration class. On Wednesdays, we moved our Viking time into the slot between 2nd and 3rd hour. It didn't start the day, we moved it in there. And we don't call it Viking time, we call it advisory time. So even though it's still the Viking time with our Viking time teachers, it's in a different spot with a different name. That way we can say, this is our time for IPS, this is our time for social emotional. The other reason for that was seniors don't have a Viking time, so by putting it between 2nd and 3rd hour, we had senior advisory last year as a big group. We would catch more of them in that 2nd to 3rd hour time. If we just said you have to come in on Wednesdays at 8, we'd have had not a lot of compliance with that. So we moved it into that slot. We started working with Zello a lot more. We had seen it and hadn't done a lot with it, but every kid would have a Zello portfolio. They did last year, where they have their careers, where they have their interest inventories, they have the colleges that they've saved. Lots of things in Zello, so we've been using that. That is not necessarily their digital portfolio, but it's kind of one piece of it. And then we transitioned into one traditional parent-teacher conference, and we do those in the fall. And then last spring, we had our first student-led conferences. So those are things that changed last year. So taking a look at that data, it's probably a little hard to see, but in high school, parents don't come to parent-teacher conferences a lot, because by that time, they've done it since they were in kindergarten. So our numbers in the fall, these were traditional ones, so this was the fall, 22% for 9th, 23% for 10th, 24% for 11th, and 11% for seniors. When we did the student-led conferences, you can see how those numbers grew. They tripled for 9th grade, they tripled for 10th grade, they almost tripled for 11th grade, and 12th grade stayed kind of where it was, it went down a little bit. So with those numbers, we said when we did the student-led conferences, we got 3 times as many parents in the building to talk about what their kids want to do post-secondary. Now, with the seniors, that led us to go, we need to do something with our seniors for 22-23, so we can get that engagement. Kylie's got her class. Part of that class is going to be a senior portfolio. It can be called an exit interview. It can be all kinds of different things. But as part of that class, they're going to have student-led conferences. Now, it might not be on student-led conference night. It might be later in the spring. That's still a work in progress because Kylie's new and we wanted her to have a piece and a say in how that works because it's going to be part of her class. So our goal is to get those seniors and their parents in here for this very same thing we did with our younger kids. So this was something we did as a staff, things we really liked about student-led conferences. More engagement, students got to showcase themselves. They were happy to talk about their plans. Some of the parents were really surprised. Like, I didn't know that's what you were interested in. Leads to some good conversations. And it was really good to be able to see the students interacting with their parents and guardians. That's not something we really get to see a lot. So those are some of the things we thought went well. What didn't go well? What are the things that we're trying to grow? That is, get the seniors more involved. The parents didn't know they could go around and see all the teachers. The way we set it up is we had 3 10-minute blocks of student-led conferences and then a 30-minute block where we didn't schedule any, so you could go around and see those teachers. I thought we communicated that, but like anything, evidently I didn't well enough because people came and then they thought they couldn't see the other teachers. We're going to make sure we communicate that better so you can still have that traditional feel. I want to go see the math teacher, but we also still have the student-led conference, which isn't focused necessarily on their math grade. It's focused on what am I going to do post-secondary. I would love to get CTE involved. CTE teachers were in the gym. I would like to do something where we have CTE projects. Maybe even a fine arts night that night where the kids can have their art on display. Anything to get more people in the building and show off the kids' stuff. And then, of course, food always works. We didn't know if we're doing it, maybe we could have some kind of a hot dog night or anything to try and get people in the doors. Those were ideas for growing the numbers for those student-led conferences. So that was last year. Well, what's going to be new this year? We want to incorporate more job application stuff. We want to incorporate job interviews and job shadowing. That's one of our goals, especially the job shadowing piece. We have to decide, is that going to fall in the sophomore year? Is that going to fall in the junior year? I'm thinking sophomore year, but we have an IPS team that does that. So Mr. Swanson doesn't decide when those things happen. Our IPS team will. But job shadowing is one of those things to get people out into the community, to get people into our building. Our community and civic engagement group, I met with the chair today, and we've already kind of tentatively set November 3rd as a business symposium where we can have 10 or 15 businesses come in. We bring our kids in 2 shifts, maybe our older kids in the morning, our younger kids in the afternoon, and the business people get up and talk about what their business is. What is Too Common? This is what we do. This is what we're looking for. If you want to come work for us, here's the things that we're looking for. So our community and civic engagement group worked on that last year, and then this year is where we're going to implement that piece.
Who is the chair for that committee?
Mark Pound and Tracy Elliott, they kind of co-chair it. But Mark, through his JAG program, has connections. But the people on that group are Bruce Ray, tons of connections. Jeff Scheibe, tons of connections because of his work at Tank Connection. So we've got people that have those connections on that committee. The next few slides are just an example of a student portfolio. Carter doesn't watch the board meetings. He doesn't know I'm doing this. His dad gave permission to do this. So just an example of what it might look like. We had color code personalities that we worked on. He was able to share his careers with us, the things that he's looking at. There was a Zello slide where he logged into his Zello and showed us what some of those careers are, what some of the colleges are, what his interest inventories look like. He was able to share his 4-year plan with us. That was a slide. Remember I said we've been doing it, but it never really got shared out. A place for him to talk about the activities he's involved with. He doesn't have a bunch of them. He got to share his current grades with us, and he got to share his graduation summary. Am I on track? This is where I fall. And these are the things I still need to take. We did include attendance on there. We did have some parents that were like, oh my gosh, you missed this much school already? Yeah, they have. So we got to put those attendance things in there. Just a few slides that when we applied for the Kansas CAN, we had to document stuff. These are just some slides from the student-led conferences that showed the parents and the student interacting with the advisor. The next slide is something the counseling department got going. This was early in it. This was in beginning of April, as kids were saying, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going. The counseling office started this board. It was outside in our commons area. This is a couple students in Nick and Colin that worked on the Veterans Memorial. They're getting checks from, I want to say DFW, I'm not sure, but they got some checks for their work on designing the new Veterans Memorial, which is going in at City Hall. The next slide is our college day. Usually LCC hosts it. They didn't get to host it last year, so we did. LCHS was here, Oswego was here, Erie came down. Our students got to go through and see all the colleges. They got to come present. The next slide is our FCCLA group. When they went to San Diego, they did very well, so there's some slides of their trip. The next one is our TSA kids. They went to Dallas for national competition. Noah and Lucas and Connor went. And then some CTE things that we put out on social media of our kids actually getting hands-on and working some of our CTE stuff. So, and back over to Tyler for the last few.
Yeah, and the next couple slides, again, it's evidence and artifacts that we turn in with those star recognitions each year for IPS. And the first one is from our video and graphic designs. If you didn't get an opportunity to last year, I hope that you guys do tune in this school year. The middle school news, Viking news that they release each Friday is always...
It was excellent.
I know. Yeah, and it gets better throughout the semester. So they start off in the first couple episodes, like, looks like a middle schooler did it. And then by the end of it, they end up really, really polished. And the kids have a ton of fun. But those are real career skills that we're implementing inside of our classes. Again, video and graphics design, you're not going to find that in an area middle school. We're the only ones that offer that. And so, if you want your kid to have a special experience at middle school, we've got the opportunities for it. And so, that was a picture from the video and graphic designs. One image from site council, that was the one where our student council was presenting to the parents, and so they actually led it. Again, our site council, we always spend one of our meetings going through the same information that we're going through right now so that everybody's kind of in the know on that. The next one is our strategic committees. And so our building leadership team, those are the names that are highlighted in yellow. That'd be your chair and your co-chair. And so just like we break up social emotional curriculums and measurements, we do the same thing for individual plans of study, our personnel development, community engagement, and our academic data teams. And so at the IPS, that's me, Mrs. Quaren, Mrs. Freeze, now Joe Campmeyer, Nikki Mullins, Lizzie Smith, and Jamie Willie, which I think that's a pretty solid lineup. Our student-led conferences, this was the one-page kind of cheat sheet that we focused on last year. We had a lot of the same information that Eric had. We need to make sure that it's fluent, or I'm sorry, it's within fidelity, I guess, of what the high school is doing. And so it's consistent. And so we need to make sure that we have a format that the students start working on it in 6th grade, spring, and that continues all the way till their spring semester of their senior year. And that's our IPS pacing guide. It was hard to fit up there on one slide. So those are the lessons. It's broken down by grade level and then by date also. And so the times that we took out of Viking time and actually approached individual plans of study are outlined there in front of you. And then this was from another one of our classes. The one on the left is our mock interviews and that we held at the middle school. We had outside people come in, a lot of the district admin and members come in and participate in that also. And we interview the kids. They get so nervous. Some of the most confident kids, that's their opportunity, and they want to do well, so they dress well as if they're really in an interview. And then the next one, and I don't know if I highlighted this last year, but we actually, our middle school FACS class catered Balkan Days in Pittsburgh last year. And so they had the opportunity to actually create the food and bring it out. And so just another piece of evidence for those star recognitions that our kids are getting an experience that most schools don't offer. Questions?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going.
Yeah, go
All right, since this began, I have, as a retired educator, this is one thing that I think will just make such a difference. And I think it's, as a board member, I've seen it grow every year. And I think it's something that it's really good for your kids who are really achieving, but I think it's one thing that will really catch kids that are, falling in the cracks, that don't fill out their papers, don't have a plan. I love the presentation, and I think it'll make a difference.
Yeah, and it exposes them to life experiences that they wouldn't otherwise have. That's why, field trips are really important at our grade levels. And so it's the same thing. They got to go cater at the Hawkins Day, and now they know they can be successful there. And so.
Well, and just making them accountable. I mean, if they have to tell their parents,
Yeah.
that's where
I think
it's
the
at.
student-led conferences are huge. I mean,
Yes.
I think so many kids wait till their senior year to talk to their parents about what are my plans after high school, and now we're starting those conversations yearly, starting in sixth grade, so
Right.
everybody's on the same page when we have
And
plans.
Carter's even changed his since last spring.
Mm-hmm.
That was a topic of discussion this summer. He's looking at something different. It's awesome that we've had those talks.
That's kind of what, I want to see is whenever my kids go through 6-12, I would love to tease them about what they put on their sixth
Right.
grade
Yeah,
and then
see
where
how
they
they
were
grew.
by their senior year and see how they kind of focused.
Do students that have IEPs also have an individual plan of study?
Every
So they
student
have
does.
a
This is
double-
tier one.
They have a
Everybody
double
gets it.
dose, basically.
Yeah, this
In a
one-
way.
And
It is a part of their
IEPs
IEP too, yeah.
Oh, it is part of, okay.
and
Yeah, they do the interest, they do the student interest in the IEP.
So it's within, okay, I just
Yeah,
wanted.
it's just a small, quick questionnaire. What are your plans after high school?
got
Part
you.
of that, but yeah.
All right, regarding Zello, my daughter Katie uses that in Olathe. I would like, that should be demonstrated to the board and to the general public because it's a powerful tool. As a former college orientation teacher, I wish I would have had that tool. We had some other tools, but this one's really powerful. And I think you have to sign up for that.
Yeah.
What Kylie told me.
And I think there's a parent login that we need to get to where the parents can get in. to see where-
Exactly.
That's a great communication piece as well.
Exactly.
It's definitely something we can continue to develop. If we found a student profile and printed it off, we could definitely get that to the board.
And you mentioned about the career technical education, CT program needs to be displayed. Well, when I looked at Bruce Ray's room this morning, it's like going into a room that's in the third dimension. He's got everything planned out for those kids so they can work in an environment where mental health is number one. He's got the soft lights on the bottom of the classroom. He's got soft lights on top. On Fridays, he will have the room darkened. He's got top-of-the-line computers. He also has technology that no other school, like you were talking about, the middle school has technology that no other school has. He has technology that no other schools around us, including LCC, don't have. And we need to get more of those people into his room, into the middle school, to see what we do have, in my opinion.
That's why we're looking forward to those community engagement
Exactly.
opportunities. The robotic or the Rotary Club, before COVID, they would have kind of one meeting a year inside of the middle school, and it was always really cool giving them tours because they hadn't been in a building in 20 plus years since they were in school, and so
COVID's kind of put a hamper on our plans with the job shadowing I remember when I was a senior in high school, I got to go work in an elementary classroom, and that's where I decided I wanted to be a teacher. I think those opportunities are priceless for our kids to get out and actually see what they actually do. And then maybe cross it off. Maybe you think you want to be a nurse and you go to the hospital and you see blood and you faint. Cross it off, move down to the next ones, but vital for our kids.
COVID, you're right. COVID has also changed the way, for some jobs and occupations and careers, the way you apply. Almost every job you apply for via computer. And you get lucky in some jobs to get an interview. So it's getting tough out there. So those kids need those skills. You're right.
Any other comments or questions for these gentlemen? Okay, thank you very much for your time, your
Thank you.
presentation. Appreciate it.
yeah, should just stay here. All right, I'm gonna grab my pen real quick.
Okay, well, we're moving on to 9.0, reports by principals, and so it looks like you two guys are on the top line, or it's just one of you and then the second line, so go
Yeah,
ahead.
and Mr. Barks is gone today. He just wanted me to share with you, fall sports started today. We don't have any numbers on any of the activities yet. Mike and I were talking before. Keisha gave every school a wet bulb thermometer, which measures humidity, wind speed, sun angle, temperature, all kinds of stuff. And then there's guidelines. So Tanner Forrest, who has been a godsend for us as our athletic trainer, he knows how to use it. He's checking it every 30 minutes. He started a group, I got with Barney today, we got all of the coaches in a group text, so he can every 30 minutes shoot the coaches and say, here we are, we're in this zone. If it changes, then the practice can change at that point in time. So that's something new that we're working through. It was hot today. We were not in the black zone, though. School safety, Chief Spinks is coming in tomorrow to talk with the high school staff on school safety. That is, things that we can do, things that law enforcement will do. God forbid something happens, here's kind of what you should expect from us. He's going to do a 2-hour presentation for our staff tomorrow. I know he's going to move into the elementary schools, I think even starting maybe later this week or next. 9th grade new student orientation is Thursday. They come in, they go to their Viking time. We have them in the gym then for about an hour and 20 minutes where we can talk through handbooks and expectations. And then they do a little shortened schedule. About every 20 minutes they go to a new class. We have lunch embedded in there so they can go to lunch with just the new students and freshmen so they don't feel out of place. And then Friday, Lori had already mentioned it, we've got everyone back. So on Friday, all 400 plus kids.
I'm sorry, who did you say was coming to do the school safety?
Chief Spinks from Parsons PD.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
our police chief. He is a trainer in that. He said I can do a 1 hour, a 2 hour, a 4 hour, an 8 hour. So let's go 2, and let's not do the full-blown one.
He also said at the police advisory meeting last Friday that right now, they're so short of police officers, it'll be a while before we ever get a school resource officer. So therefore, that's why, one of the reasons why he's coming in.
Yeah.
I was curious though, why the Labette County Sheriff doesn't get involved with the schools, or do they?
I just asked Chief Spinks because I'm on that advisory council with you. So I just reached out to him.
Okay.
Further questions for Mr. Swanson? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's quick. Good job, Eric. And, sorry, you have to.
Go ahead.
You're good.
You're
Can I
on.
just roll into, okay.
You're on.
All right, so in my board report, I just did kind of outline the week in getting started. This is how we're going to start strong. Our AM, we started with District PD. Lou and Jeff came in, spoke to the staff. In the PM, we came in, we brought everybody in as a staff. We introduced everybody. It was kind of a warm welcoming. Then we introduced our theme for this school year. And the piece of evidence that stood out to my building leadership team and I, whenever we kind of closed down school last year, was that 40% self-efficacy inside of it. So we found a curriculum that's applied to it, and our building theme at the middle school this year is going to be 4DX, and that's the 4 disciplines of execution. And so I kind of introduced my staff to it. It's focusing on what's wildly important, acting on lead measures, keeping a compelling scoreboard, and so sharing that scoreboard out and being held accountable for it, and then finally a cadence of accountability where we revisit it. One thing that we built into the school year this year is on Fridays, we're going to pull the entire building into an assembly. So myself, Barney, the aides, and the paras, we're going to run an assembly. We're going to reward those students that are focused and executing those wildly important goals. And that will allow our staff to break out into their strategic committees, into student intervention teams, and that'll give them additional collaboration time to make sure that we're keeping up with those lead measures. Tomorrow, we've got Wade Redker coming from Greenbush, and he's going to bring Marzano, John Hattie, Jim Knight, Kagan. He's going to be bringing in cooperative learning strategies for our staff inside of the building, and so we're going to execute those. That'll be from 8 to 2 with a lunch break inside of there. After 2 p.m., we're going to have kind of a newbie boot camp. So if you're new to the building or new to your subject or new to one of the platforms that we use, because we have a lot of technology inside of the building, and so we've got to make sure the staff know what they're doing. And so our veteran staff that have been executing those things for a while, they're going to be able to go back to their classrooms. The ones that need the training on how to use Infinite Campus for attendance or grades, the McREL evaluation tool, how to put in a day and an absence in an ASOP, or how to write a discipline referral at the middle school. We're going to have just kind of an ed camp for new staff to go and get those trainings. Wednesday is the negotiated day. I'm asking that my staff contacts their Viking time students. That's anywhere between 10 and 14 students. They'll reach out and make sure that they invite the parents to open house Thursday night from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And then on Thursday, we start with sixth graders and new students, 12:45 dismissal. Afterwards, the staff has time to complete their district-wide training, like the bloodborne pathogens, and that list that we have to execute every year. And then Friday, we're gonna do a whole day of school from 8 to 3:20, and we'll roll right into the next week. Fall sports, we moved our football practice to 5:30 and we held it in the gym. So after volleyball practice completed, we got them up inside of the gym where it's air climate controlled, where we don't necessarily have to worry about the humidity outside, and kind of get those kids start to walking through those. That's where Barney's at tonight, is kind of helping assist those practices and check on participation. So all of that's in his board report. Our first middle school activities competitions are coming up like September 1st. And, you know, I know that sounds like next month, but that's literally like a week and a half to 2 weeks away. It's coming quick.
Any other questions for Mr. Gordon here? Okay, well, thank you for your time.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Sounds good.
Okay, we have any other principals out there that would like to speak? We do. Thank you, ladies, for coming in.
Yeah. And today was a lot of take your kid to college day. It was move in at KU, and so that's where the Barkuses are. And it was move in at Fort Hays State, and so that's where Mr. Freeze was today as well.
Go ahead, ladies.
So let's talk about Lincoln. Today was the day the teachers came back. We had an exciting day. We had the morning with the district, and then in the afternoon, we came together as a building. We talked about some expectations with the whole staff. We did some team building games, and we had a lot of fun. And it was just good to get those relationships, you know, and talk and see what people have done, and you know, and I think that it was time well spent, definitely. Tomorrow we're going to be doing some more academic expectations with the teachers. Tomorrow afternoon is going to be the training time for them to do their training, and then Wednesday they're going to have time to work in their rooms. So that's the time that they get to work in their rooms. Thursday, Chief Spinks is going to come in the afternoon and talk to Lincoln about school safety for a couple of hours, and then Friday we're going to hit the whole day. We're excited. And we love our new awning. If you haven't seen it, drive by Lincoln. It's
nice.
really cool, and we're all excited because we're going to kind of decorate it for the first day. And so, yeah, come on by if you haven't seen it.
Thank you.
Good evening. At Garfield, we still need to enroll 6 students. Our enrollment is 187 students right at the moment, which is very comparable to this time last year. When I looked at some of the reasons why people have left, it's that they've completely moved away from our town. That seems to be a big majority of them. Our class sizes, second grade's average is 17, third grade's average is 19. A lot of what she said about how she spent her day was the same way we spent our day. Our sneak peek is Wednesday night from 5 to 7, and we're just tying up a few loose ends to be ready for all of our second and third graders. And then Thursday is half day. One of the things that I wanted to thank you guys for is us being able to have a school counselor full-time in our building next year. We think that's a wonderful addition. And then also having our own recovery room so we can take care of behavior needs right there and just get them right back to the classroom. That's all I have.
Any questions for these two?
Sounds good.
Okay.
You're ready.
Thank you. Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you, guys.
And Misty had mentioned enrollment, and so this morning we were at 95% of our enrollment from last year. We're currently enrolled this morning. And so it's not too late. So if someone's out there watching and thinks, oh, I haven't enrolled, that's okay. Come on.
That's good.
Call. Yeah, the numbers look really good. We were.
And we always have a few that walk in the first day, and that's what we need to do.
25:30, so, yeah, we're at 12:52, so, yeah, it looks good.
All right, thank you very much. So we're moving to a new business, 10.0, action to accept donations to schools.
Okay, this is on page 42 in your packet. As we go down there, the first is at Lincoln Elementary this summer, there were drinks for summer school students from Pure Life Nutrition valued at $175 for a total there. There were none at Garfield, Guthridge, or the middle school. At the high school, Mr. and Mrs. James Aldridge made a donation to Honor Flight valued at $500. There was an anonymous donation for the volleyball program, $380. Daniel and Amy Manners made a donation of $350 to the volleyball program. So at the high school, the donations were $1,230 for the month of July, which means total district-wide $1,405. So I recommend that you approve those donations.
I move we accept the donations.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those donations. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 10.1, action to set a special meeting to hold a hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate and hold a budget hearing. So this is just a formality.
This is just simply a formality. Last year was the first year we did the revenue neutral rate, and that hearing has to be held before you have the budget hearing. So what we did last year is we had them on the same evening. We had one at 6 o'clock, and then we had one at 6:05,
Yeah, so we'll just do that next month.
September the 19th.
Yeah, prior to our regular board meeting. So just need a motion to get those set.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to set those, that special meeting and hold the hearing on the revenue neutral rate and the budget. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 10.2, discussion, possible action on seeking rezoning of Washington School.
All right. So we have talked about having a task force, and that task force is we're going to start making calls, hope to have a meeting in September. But a part of that, in order to have really, to move forward, is with anything that we do at Washington, is that we need to apply to have it rezoned.
So, this is one of those deals that we've heard in the community and a lot of other communities. One of the main revitalizations is for housing, multi-family housing there. And so we'd be seeking the city to see if they would rezone that. And then through that process, we'd be getting feedback, obviously, from community members to kind of know how people feel. And so it's kind of Lori's recommendation and my recommendation that we pursue that to kind of see what's going on so that we'll be in a good position if we have an opportunity to transform that into something that could be better for the community and better for us, provide some housing necessary in this community. So that would be my recommendation. So we just need a motion. We can always, obviously, go in a different direction, but this is the first step at least.
Do we have an active committee for the Washington School?
We have
do
a
not.
list. We have a list, but we've not met yet.
Okay.
We have a list.
So what is it zoned for now, and what would we be looking to zone it to?
So it's currently zoned as a school, which is R1. And so we would be looking at zoning it as an R3, which would open it up for the potential possibly some residential type opportunities. So, because right now, the way it's zoned, the only thing it can really be is a school.
Make that motion?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to seek the rezoning of Washington School. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 10.3, executive session. Timing you think you need?
15 minutes, 20.
Okay, does anybody have anything special for executive session? Okay. We'll go ahead then, let's go ahead and let's do 20, because we will need to have some discussion about personnel matters. So let's go ahead and go 20 then. So I'll entertain a motion for 20-minute executive session.
So move that we go into executive session for 20 minutes.
Second.
Okay, let's move to second to enter executive session, discuss confidential employee information pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under COMA and the exception for employer-employee negotiations under COMA at 6:50. For 20 minutes, we'll return back to the open meeting at 7:10 in this room, and at least for the first part, we'll have superintendent and assistant superintendent with us. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we're in executive session.
So we won't be.
Okay. We do need to extend another 5 minutes on the executive session, so I'll entertain a motion in that regard.
Motion that we extend for 5 minutes starting at 7:12, ending at 7:17.
Moved and seconded, we enter executive session, discuss confidential employee information pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under COMA and the exception for employer negotiations under COMA at 7:12 for 5 minutes, and we return to open meeting at 7:17. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries, so we're back in executive session. for 5 minutes. We are back in open session. We're ready to move on to 10.4, discussion and action on administrator director salaries for 22-23.
I'd make a motion that we offer a 3% increase for our directors and administrators.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to offer 3% increase in compensation for building administrators and directors for 22-23. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We're moving to 10.5, discussion and action on superintendent salary and assistant superintendent salary for 22-23.
I'd make a motion, we offer 3% increase for a superintendent and assistant superintendent.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to offer the same 3% increase for superintendent and assistant superintendent for 22-23. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Looks like we've got, what,
10.5A.
Yeah, 10.5A, action to approve the 22-23 classified staff handbook.
Okay, so the first reading of that handbook was July the 18th, and I haven't heard from anyone. There weren't any significant changes or any changes really at all, with the exception of the date. So I would recommend that you approve that handbook.
Go ahead.
Motion.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded to approve the 22-23 classified staff handbook. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 10.5B, action to approve the 22-23 negotiated agreement.
All right, that was also on the July 18th agenda. The only items that were changed were those based on the negotiations, which is the different time on Wednesday, and that was it. So I would recommend that you approve that agreement. It's already been ratified.
So this is what Lou and I negotiated with them successfully.
Right.
So need a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the 22-23 negotiated agreement. We negotiated with PNEA. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 10.6, action on personnel.
Okay, so there's a number of those recommendations for employment effective the 22-23 school year. Kristen Chestnut, Lincoln Behavior Support Aide. Mona Garrett, full-time substitute teacher. Jamarian Green, Lincoln Title Aide. Aubrey Lawson, Guthridge Title Aide. Amanda Lowe, full-time substitute teacher. Turning it over. Lauren Merchant, Lincoln Aide. Christy Nelson, preschool aide. Bert Smith, Garfield custodian. Eric Spencer, Lincoln Behavior Support Aide. Moving to the addendum, Kayla Downey, Guthridge Title I Aide. Briley Casper, Garfield STEM Instructional Aide. And Bailey Monty, Middle School Math Aide. So I recommend that you approve those for employment for this school year.
So moved.
Moved. Have a second here. Sorry. Moved and seconded to approve those recommendations for employment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, we have some resignations from employment. Colton Ballou, custodian, effective August the 5th, 2022. Andrea Downey, child nutrition staff, effective August the 8th, 2022. Terry Jones, Garfield Title interventionist, effective August the 9th, 2022. Lillian Kendrick, Lincoln preschool aide, effective July the 26th, 2022. Jalen Largent, Garfield ESOL aide, effective July the 28th, 2022. Sherry Marlowe, Guthridge Title I aide, effective July the 25th, 2022. I recommend that you approve those resignations for employment.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve those resignations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, with no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you for your attendance and your time this evening.